Welcome to the Speak Like a Leader podcast with John Bates. Welcome to the show. With me today is someone that made an enormous difference for me in my very early days. And the interesting thing about making a difference for someone in their very early days is that means that you continue to make a difference for them for the rest of everything they're doing. And that's what the guy I'm going to talk to now has done for me. He's one of the most kind, generous, just sweet guys that I have ever met. And he's also one of the most brilliant speaking coaches, presentation coaches, pitch coaches on the freaking planet. So I am thrilled to welcome Nathan Gold, speaking coach, multiple winner of the Demo God Award. In fact, I think he's won that Demo God Award more than anybody else on the planet. And he is a solopreneur who told me earlier that he leveraged his love for something into a career. And so we're going to talk about all of this stuff and more. And Nathan, welcome to Speak Like a Leader show. And thank you for taking the time to join me here.
You're welcome, John. It's a pleasure to be here and see you. Of course, sorry our audience can't see you, but it's good to see your smiling face. Always a pleasure.
Well, thank you. And likewise. And, let's talk about, so we're going to talk about speaking. We're going to talk about some of your brilliant coaching and insights into presenting and pitching. But let's start with that story that I don't think I even knew about you. And this is a story that might resonate at the time we're recording this. It's December of 2021. You were in a job. You said, hey, I have this love of something. I'm going to step out of my comfortable job. I'm going to go be a solopreneur and do something that I really love. I don't have any certifications. I don't have any, anybody that's, sending me leads, but I'm going to do it anyway. So tell us that story.
I wish what you just described was 100% accurate, but there's a slight correction there. And that was I got laid off.
Okay.
For the third time in my career. And as you know, in America, they can walk in one day and say, thanks, it's been nice knowing you. We appreciate your work. The door's right there. We'll send you your severance pay. Yeah. So my whole team had gotten laid off, and I thought, you know what? I'm like 50 years old. It's enough. I don't want anybody to ever have that control over my life again.
Boy, that's a feeling, huh?
Yeah, well, it's very uncomfortable when you get laid off or fired. I mean, it's never our fault, right? Wink, wink. But it never is really our fault, usually, but circumstances. So I did what all the self-help books say, John. You either retire or do what you love. And I was too young to retire.
Yeah.
So I just literally did what they say in the books to do, which is find something you love to do, provide value when you offer it to other people, and it will never feel like a day's work.
Yeah.
And so I looked around and I thought, what do I love to do? And as you already mentioned, I spent my whole career in high tech doing the demos for products and services for the companies I worked for.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned all my presentation skills, all my persuasion skills, because it was on the job training. I mean, I started out at 23 years old, didn't really know what was going on. And then all the way up through 50, I had touched so many different software and hardware products and got to watch salespeople do their magic. And I could incorporate the good stuff that they do into my presentation and speaking abilities. And so literally, I just hung my shield out and said, I am at that time, a presentation coach.
Very cool.
That's it. And what happens, happens.
And one of the things that I hadn't put this together till you started to say it, but I did a ton of those computer shows like CES and whatever. God, what was the old one back in the day, that I think Microsoft ran. Comdex. Oh my gosh. Talk about dredging up the past. But being on the floor as people walk by saying what you said, okay, that didn't work. then saying something else. Okay, that didn't work. Saying something, oh, hey, that worked. What was the difference, right? There's an enormous amount of value in the time that we both spent doing those things, I think. And I never really thought about it that way before, and I did a lot of, on-campus marketing for bigwords.com, right? I was on campus with students trying to get them interested in bigwords.com and would watch stuff, And so you had 25 years of experience at that.
Many
watching
trade shows.
Salespeople, doing it yourself, being at trade shows, doing this product demo over and over and over. Yeah. So you had, and you said in our conversation earlier that you weren't a certified presentation specialist. But hey, listen, I bet there's a lot of certified presentation specialists that had nothing like the experience you had, right?
Well, that's the point to your audience, is that it's about your wisdom and your experience. So of course, it's about your potential as well. But I didn't want to just be a facilitator. Those people that just ask you a question and ask you another question and ask you, and then you figure out everything on your own, which is one way to do things. But I just figured, let's see what I can do. So I took my love for this topic of speaking and being an effective communicator, came up with my own, what do we call it? My own shtick, my own
It's a process, good shtick, by the way.
methodology, whatever you call it. And then I threw it in the garbage. Believe it or not, I literally threw it in the garbage because I didn't want to compete with the people on the, like Nancy Duarte and others who have really big established companies. I didn't want to compete with them. So I just I just stayed true and authentic. And my first secret I'll share with you and your audience about how do you do something you don't have a certification or a PhD or some, credibility in the eyes of the world, aside from in your own eyes. And that is quote the experts.
That is really brilliant.
And I did that with Simon Sinek in 2010. So I started my business 2008. He did that talk in Seattle in 2009. Yep. I saw it like a few 100,000 other people saw it. And I thought,
it's brilliant.
Exactly. And then I started telling everybody, I incorporated his golden circle into my talks.
Yeah.
And everybody goes, holy moly, I never heard of that guy. That's amazing. And obviously 10 years later, everybody's heard of Simon Sinek.
Yep.
But by quoting that expert as a solopreneur, as just some speaker, I'm bringing value to them because somebody they had never heard of before. So you don't have to be expert in anything.
Yeah.
You just specialize. That's what I had around my head, is I didn't need to become an expert. I just specialize and help and provide value. And part of providing value is quoting an expert.
Well, one of my biggest hits, Nathan, one of the things that, I've got on all my handouts and that I say every time I train people is the 3 ways to connect with and inspire any audience, anyway, anywhere, anytime. And none of it's me. It's Les Brown, it's Craig Valentine, and it's Nancy Duarte, whom we've already mentioned. And that's one of the biggest pieces of value I bring. And I don't feel bad at all about that. I'm quoting them. I'm giving them their due. And those 3 things put together by me.
Yes.
Nobody else has put in those 3 things together, right?
That's the ticket.
That's what you do too, right? I mean, you bring your own stuff, of course, but there's that curation effect, I guess.
Right. That's the ticket right there. With the amount of information doubling in our world, approximately, I think now every 13 months, it's just massive. So when you can sift through that as a specialist, not an expert. Expert, I don't even like that word. When people introduce me, please don't use the word expert. I'm not. I'm a specialist. I specialize in doing this.
Yeah.
And I make money doing this, and I'm happy doing this, but I'm not an expert.
That's very cool. So the value of the curation of knowledge by a specialist, that's huge.
It's what the news does, right? In a way.
Sure.
Only they give us all the crappy news, but they could give us good news too, but they don't.
They could.
So it's being your own news channel, and you bring the pieces of what you know and what you discover to the audiences. And I read a lot of books.
Yeah.
I have many I probably have 20, 25 books on my shelf from other people who write about storytelling, presentation skills, public speaking skills, not to steal their ideas, but I look through them because you can just find a nugget.
Right.
And then I find another quote, and I quote this guy nobody's heard of, like Robert Cialdini, and they go, "Who's that?" I go, "Oh, you mean the guy from Wow, that's cool."
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. So that was probably a little bit of a scary step to take. How'd you get over that fear?
Well, I think you're actually what's the word? You're speaking about the imposter syndrome in some ways,
of course,
and being scared about how do I look somebody in the eye and say I charge X dollars per hour to help you when I don't even know if I'm on target, right? So there was a scary 6-ish months.
Yeah, but
I did solve it though.
Yeah,
by talking nice to myself.
Good.
Not putting so much pressure onto myself, but making sure that anybody I met that I was talking about my services and how I could help them, I would not give it away for free.
Yeah.
And I would tell them, my early clients, I would be happy to help you. This is what I charge per hour. Confident, this is what I charge per hour. Money back guarantee. Yeah. I'm probably one of the few consultants that say that. I actually will give people their money back.
Yep.
You and me, John. I don't know anybody else. Guaranteed. Who does that, right?
Yeah, not everybody.
And I lost my train of thought on that.
About you when early days, and you would tell them what you charged, and you would confidently.
This is what I charge. This is what the time it would probably take us to reach your goal, to get you ready. And if you accept these terms, I will do it pro bono, but I must be able to talk about the story.
Right. Yeah.
Of us working together. I needed 3 really good stories. Yeah. That's the number I had in my head. I needed 3 good stories, because after the first one, the next client might say, "Oh yeah, well, tell me about another one." The second one, "Oh wow, that's really cool." You generally never need to go to the third story.
Right. But good to have it in reserve.
Every once in a while. Yeah. Hey, that reminds me. Let me share you one more story, because they don't even have to ask. You just jump on that next story.
There you go.
And that illustrates how you. I'm sorry?
Because this one reminds me of kind of your situation. Let me tell you this story, right? Yeah.
That's right. And then each of those stories I tell in a way that illustrates how I do what I do, the value that I provide for them. It's reference selling 101.
Yeah.
That's it. You just need 3 references. That are willing to even answer the phone. I've never had to have any of my clients pick up the phone and call any of them, but they all agreed to take a call.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. People. Yeah. I mean, people don't often follow up with references. They do sometimes, but not all the time.
Not always. So those 3 stories, John, really gave me the courage to keep going.
Yes.
And to actually take people's money.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine that you have that experience that I have. I know you do, because you've seen the look on my face when you make a difference for someone and you see the difference you make, right? That's a pretty strong motivator to go do that again. Right.
Right. Right.
And I think it does take courage to bridge that gap between the monkey mind telling me I'm not good enough. And, I don't know what I'm doing. If they only knew, oh my gosh, how, right. To bridge that gap, to go do it. But then, I have a folder over here that it's labeled Sunshine, and I put all the thank yous and all the John, you'll never guess what happened, and thank you so much. I put all that in a folder, and I have one in my email too. And when I'm having a bad day, I go look at that stuff. I don't know if people know how much that stuff means to us,
It's in a way one of the biggest reasons you and I keep doing what we're doing, in addition to being paid. We have to pay the bills. We need to retire someday.
Yes.
But that is the reason when you get that result, and it's not about them thanking us, but it's about us seeing how the value that we provide, that to us seems almost kind of easy. And I believe that's part of picking the right solopreneur journey, is to pick something that's really easy for you.
Yeah.
That other people see as tremendous value.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
All right. Like helping somebody come up with a single line, one line that when they tell somebody, what does Art Bat do?
Yeah.
And the answer blows their mind, and you help them come up with that one line.
Yeah.
For you and me, we do it hundreds of times. It's almost like, give me a piece of cake in a way,
Yeah.
like 99% of the time. So it seems like magic to us, but to other people, it's like, I saw the light bulbs blow up in people's eyes today when one of them came up with the right answer by me asking the right question. Now, wait a minute, let's go back to that. What did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, say that again. And that's it.
You know, Nathan, I sometimes, when I was with the band, I decided that it took two people to have a really good idea. One person to say, we ought to blah, blah, blah. And another person to say, oh, wow, that's a great idea. Right. Because like without that other person confirming it or hearing it and picking it out and noticing it, a lot of those brilliant lines just get away.
That's true. That is so true.
So that's cool. So what are a few of the, like, I don't want to, don't tell us the real secrets here, but
why not?
Or tell us the real secrets.
I have nothing to hide. It's not all my stuff. I mean, none of this stuff is my stuff, really. Maybe the way I say it occasionally and the emphasis I put on a word or a phrase, but frankly, John, I think there's one thing I own, and maybe two things. I own an acronym called SAM.
Yeah.
And another one called SAME. But so what? I mean, it's just me. Actually, I did it as a selfish reason because I've overcome it, but I was quite dyslexic as a kid, and I needed acronyms and mnemonics to remember things. Yeah. So even in my adult life, I still use them. So when I started doing my workshops, which by the way, that's the way you know if you have content that other people will pay for. Just go do workshops.
Yeah. Right. If anybody comes and likes it,
they'll tell you, right? I say you test all your material. Yeah. It's $199, but free if you sign up today. And there'll be a survey at the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sam. So I got to this, one of the simplest things in life is to explain the value of what you do to somebody else or to someone else by using a simile, an analogy, or a metaphor.
Yep.
And that's where Sam comes from.
Yep.
So when I tell my audiences, you need a Sam, you are so confused. It's taking you 3 minutes to give me a Sam, give me a good simile, analogy, or metaphor about what you're doing, and then we can have a conversation.
Yes.
But I don't own Sam. I mean, I picked out a picture of a fireman Sam from the UK, which is a children's cartoon program. I put him up on my slide and I go SAM. Now, what does that stand for?
There you go.
And it just drives it home to the audience. Frankly, I tell people honestly right up front, I'm not going to tell you anything new here. I'm just going to remind you of stuff you already know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's a lot of specialists and experts do that, right? Because you're
in a new light
on that. Pardon me?
In a new light, when you show people things in a new light.
Well, yeah, I hear from people all the time, John, none of this was really new to me. I like, there wasn't anything that I hadn't heard before. And there was a thing or two, but not much. But what I didn't ever get it before.
Yeah.
Now I get it, right? And I love that saying from Leo Buscaglia, to know and not to do is not to know.
That's one man we miss.
Yeah.
He sorely missed. He was changing the world one hug at a time.
Yeah.
And, just like some of the gurus out there that let people come up and get blessed by everybody in the audience, he would, I never saw him live, but what a shame that he died so young.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to go back to Sam for two reasons. One is, I went to Necker Island a couple of years ago, met Richard Branson, and he told us the story about how he really had dyslexia as well, like really strong dyslexia, and it really got in his way. I think it's why he's a billionaire, by the way, because he couldn't do stuff very well, he said. So he would do it to figure it out a little and then hire the best person he could find to do it and clap and cheer them on. And so now he's got a bunch of millionaires working for him and he's a billionaire, right? But what I love about that is that acronyms and the things that you needed to do for yourself because of your dyslexia, those things work really well for all human beings. It's just maybe all human beings aren't pushed as hard to get to them create them, right?
That's a very good point.
So I think that's awesome. And SAM arises directly out of neurobiology, right? Similes, acronyms, metaphors.
Right.
Or is it acronyms? Is that the middle one? No, analogies. Similes, analogies. I knew something was wrong. Similes, analogies, and metaphors. Right. That arises right out of neurobiology because those are what people relate to, whether they think they should, whether it's logical, whether they want to or not. Similes, analogies, metaphors, and stories, right?
Right. Of course, stories, if you have the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But a good simile, analogy, or a metaphor is all you need to captivate your audience in some cases.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and a lot of people that are very logical will resist those by saying that they break down at a certain point. But,
right.
Okay, they break down at a certain point. Go ahead and say that. But it's useful for understanding where we are right now.
It's really no different than having somebody put a bowl of food in front of you and you look down at it and no way am I picking up a fork to eat that. And you say, what does that taste like? And you know what everybody says, right? Tastes like
chicken.
Okay, I'll try it. And that is basically what I tell people, especially the more educated, the PhDers that I run into.
Of course.
I could never use a simile, analogy, and metaphor. I'm too good for that.
Yeah.
To which I reply to them, in certain circumstances, I'll say this, John, I'm just you're the PhD. And I'm not picking on PhDers, but hey, why not?
But why
John,
not?
Could you point to the direction of up, please? And they go like this. And I say, okay, great. Now, left, right, down. Okay, great. Now, how do you know that's up? And he says, well, and eventually they say, because somebody taught me.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so if we don't use the word up, we can't communicate where that direction is, right? He goes, yeah. Well, that's the power of a simile, analogy, or metaphor in business too.
Yes. That's really good. You're absolutely right.
We use them every 47 seconds in normal conversation. We use a simile, analogy, or metaphor, according to some books that I've read, every 47 seconds.
Right. And then when we get in front of the audience that really matters, that we really want to influence, that really makes a difference, we don't do it at all.
At all. Now, I can't dumb it down for my audience. These are executives. No, it's not dumbing it down.
Yeah.
It's making it instant transfer of value. Like, boom.
Yeah. Yeah. So how about this? What is one of the big mistakes that you see your clients making before they work with you? I mean, there's a number, right? But
live or on camera.
Can we do one of each?
Sure. Live. Let's go live. Boy, it's been almost 2 years. I haven't been out at a live anything for about 2 years. So I'd have to go back in time and say that in general, the mistakes that people make when they're in a live situation are they're not breathing properly. That's the biggest mistake.
Shallow and fast.
Shallow, fast, clavicle breathing because they're nervous. They don't manage their nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't manage your nerves in a live presentation, those first 30 seconds to a minute is where you tend to warm up. And I find that's that's an excuse.
To
warm up. I just need 30 seconds. You've heard people say this. I just need 30 seconds in front of my audience. No. What are you going to walk out on the TED stage and spend the first 30 seconds warming up in front of Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Al Gore? Get over yourself. Do that in backstage.
Right.
And so
I got some great presentation advice about 20 years ago. Start at 100% and go up from there. but so people, I mean, I think that we have fractions of a second before the audience has decided whether they're going to listen or not. And 30 seconds is way more than a fraction of a second.
Oh yeah. I mean, what you're wearing, how you walk, how you find your mark on stage, what you do before you get there. People are jumping to conclusions faster than you can even bat your eye.
Yeah,
By the
absolutely.
time you get to your mark and say good morning, they've already decided.
Yeah. Yep. It starts when they see you, is what I tell people. It doesn't start when you think it starts.
That's right.
When after you walk up and clear your throat and have a little water and unfold your notes, like, no. That's the talk already.
The analogy I use with everybody I talk to about preparing for your time out in a live room is the Rocky film, the first Rocky film. Everybody knows the scene where he runs up the stairs, he gets at the top, and he's got his arms in his hand in the air.
Yeah.
Most of you start at the bottom of the stairs when you walk up in front of your audience. I want you to be at the top of the stairs when you walk out in front of your audience.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
and we can do it. You just need to come up with your own routine. Like, what do you tell yourself? Do you play some music in your head? I play the Rocky theme, actually. I use psychology. I play that music in my head. And when I get out on stage, I have goosebumps all over. I have goosebumps right now just thinking about the music. And everybody has a piece of music like that. If they just played it in their head, they'd manage their nerves more effectively.
Well, and what I love, Nathan, that I think a lot of people don't understand is you have created that habit in yourself, and you've like Pavloved yourself.
Yep.
Right. Like before you go out to speak, before you jump onto a virtual thing and do your thing, your shtick, if we can call it that, you go through this ritual that you have trained yourself to get yourself into the right frame of mind. And you just gave yourself goosebumps on our podcast pretending.
That's right. And that's how you know it's authentic.
It is. Pardon me?
That's how you know it's authentic and real.
That's right. That's right. Well, and that also, it's not the first time you've done it,
right?
Right. And I think that a lot of times people think people are really fast on their feet and way better than them at being extemporaneous, and maybe they are good, but I've always found the people that are the best going off script and being extemporaneous and make it feel like they haven't practiced. Those are the ones that practice the most. But everybody thinks they don't, right? So then they feel inadequate because they can't pull that off without practicing. Well, guess what? Neither could that other person.
That's right. You want a piece of coaching advice for your audience that would maybe come from left field? People are always asking me, how do I really get to be a great presenter?
Yeah.
Or really own the stage in the live world, let's say. I say, well, go to improv. Take some improv classes. You don't have to become an expert, but learn what they do on stage when you're given nothing to do something with, and you can learn quickly the strategies they use that you can use when you're in front of an executive committee. And they're pounding you with hard questions, and you're starting to get a little flustered and what to do and the power transfer and all of that great stuff that they teach.
Yes.
And the beautiful part of they're all virtual today. You don't even have to get in the car, drive, park, walk in the door, skip the lav, sign up, sign in, and get in the room. And there's 19 reasons why you wouldn't even get that far.
Right. Yeah, now it's all happening virtually. I mean, I know, let's switch to that, because I know that you have been really loving and you've lit it up, Nathan. You've had your best year ever, I think, in all virtual, no planes, no whiny passengers, no losing days to travel. So you have made the transition.
Yes.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that you see people making in the virtual world when they're presenting or interacting?
Yeah. It's a really super question to cover now, because I want to let everybody know that you can do just about everything you do in a live room over a camera.
Yeah.
And in some cases, 100% better.
Yeah.
90% of my revenue up until the pandemic was getting on an airplane, flying somewhere, getting in a hotel, blah, 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 do the thing, go home, repeat.
Yeah.
And I haven't been on an airplane for 2 years. Not because I don't want to, but because there's no need to. So what I've done over these 2 years, especially in the first year, was I already had a pretty high-end webcam going, and a fairly decent computer. But I realized, okay, this pandemic and this virtual world is going to be around for a while.
It's here for a while. Yeah. But I don't think it's going away completely at all. Yeah.
A year, maybe 2, whatever, but it's going to be around for a while. So I'm going to upgrade my kit a little bit here. And I ended up doing that because I realized that the biggest mistake, to answer your question, that people are making in the virtual world is they are not connecting with their audience.
Boy, do I hear that.
They think they are.
Yeah.
And those who don't are always telling me, Nathan, this camera world, it's terrible. I don't know if people are there. Their cameras are off. I don't know if they're even listening, to which I respond, it is not their responsibility to pay attention. It is not their responsibility to turn on their cameras. It's yours.
Yeah.
Work a little harder. Give people a reason to turn on their cameras. If you want them on, maybe you don't need them on.
Yeah.
But people in TV understand this. You have your studio audience and you have your home audience. And who do they typically present to in the news, the weather, and the talk show hosts? Who do they talk to most of the time?
The home audience.
And how do they do that?
They look into the camera.
And that's the biggest mistake people are making in the virtual world. They are not looking
You're so
into
right.
the camera.
You are
and
so
it's
right.
freaky. It's freaky. You got to just get used to it. I tell people, make your camera your very best friend. Look down into the middle of the lens and know that you are making eye contact with everyone.
Yes. Yes.
And that's the rub. You cannot do that in a live room. You can only make eye contact with one person at a time in a live room.
Right.
In the virtual world, you can have 200 million people online with you. And all you do is look into the camera and everyone is going to stare at you on their screen like you are looking right into their eyes, like I'm looking at yours right now.
Yeah. And you are very good at that. I've been noticing there's a few things like people aren't going to see this, right? We're just a sound podcast, but as I'm looking at you, we're in Squadcast and we can see each other. And I noticed that you have excellent lighting. You have impeccable framing. There's not a whole ton of space above your head. You clearly have a really good green screen. And so we're not losing your eyes or edges of your ears or parts of your hair. Like you've got this great background and we're not losing anything. And you are looking into the camera. And I feel like I'm just sitting here across the table from my good friend, Nathan Gold, who's made an ongoing huge difference for me for the last decade. And it's really, really nice. I see why you have been so successful at this where others are not. And it works. It's simple to do, but it's also easy not to do because you're stuck looking over here at John, like you're over here. And if I look at you over there, I'm not looking at you, but there's a lot going on here. Yeah. Look at that. Wow. And you can, you've got multiple camera angles. Yeah. You've got that huge, awesome green screen, like all the way from the ceiling to the carpet. Like, wow. My wife wouldn't let me paint the wall. Because you could just paint the wall, the chroma key color. You can get it at any paint store. Yep. But she said, no, you can't do that. So put the green screen up and I can take it down. It's portable and easy. And it looks great and it works great. The other thing, here's, if it's okay, I'll toss in my little secret. Cause I think you've got the number one issue is people are not looking into the camera. Right. And so people, even though they intellectually know, they're looking at me on their second screen, what they see is the side of someone's face and they think that person's not paying attention, right? Even though they're looking rapt at the video, right? So that's number one. And I totally agree with you. The other thing that I think is a secret key is the sound. Yes. Right? Like people are using that little teeny tiny pinprick microphone in their iMac or in their laptop or whatever. And it's way far away from their mouth. It's this teeny diaphragm and people I read about a study a while ago, Nathan. It was before all this happened, but they put people in a movie theater and they degraded the visual quality of the film. People didn't notice for a long time. And when they noticed, they thought it was the sound that had gone bad. And then they put people in a theater and they degraded the sound. People noticed immediately and they did not like it. Look at how much money we spent on THX, right? The audience is listening. That's the secret key, I think, to having your video seem super high quality is really good sound.
Any audiophile out there will tell you that the number one place to spend money when you're presenting live or in online, especially online, is in your sound setup.
Yep. Oh, I'll never forget.
That's it.
You told me when I first started doing this and I met you, you said, John, let me give you one piece of advice. I want you to go out and I want you to get the Shure EG 100, whatever, send and receive units, right? And then I want you to get whatever the Madonna mic thing is, right? Whatever that brand was. And you said it's going to cost you a lot of money, but and I know it hurts, but I want you to go do that right now because your voice is your product. And when you go anywhere, I want you to take that setup with you and you tell the people that are running the event to use it.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I do.
Yeah. That was great advice.
And that's the place I would spend money. Any USB device will automatically amplify your voice. Most of them don't even come with software. You just plug it into a Mac or a PC. Yeah. Boom. You've got a better mic to use in Zoom or Teams. That's the first place I would spend money. Obviously, you don't have to spend any money to look into your camera. Right. Except maybe position it differently. So we're not looking up your nose or you're not looking, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. People like to talk eye to eye, It's not bad.
Yeah, and you have to play games. You have to move yourself and move the picture a little close to the camera so that you can go back and forth. And please don't get me wrong. You don't have to stare into the camera at every moment you're online. If you're not speaking, look anywhere you want. Yeah. If you have to get a cup of coffee, look down. Otherwise, you'll knock it over. But when you want to connect with your audience, look into the camera. Oh, the moral of that story, John, is even after the pandemic is settled and people go back to life in a way, the hybrid world is going to be here forever.
I totally agree.
Until holographic images let us project ourselves into rooms. Yeah. There's going to be people who can't get there, won't get there, don't want to get there, can't afford to get there. Yep. Diversity, inclusion, all this stuff that's giving more people a reason. Hey, there's got to be a camera in that room so people can come in, whether it's internal, external, or both. Yeah. So get used to the cameras, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people your leadership presence is now all about your telepresence, your video presence, your Zoom presence, your Teams presence. That is your leadership presence. And, and I won't say who it was, of course. I won't say even the industry or company, but I was set to work with a guy who runs an international division of a gigantic company, right? And he decided that he already was good enough and wasn't going to get anything out of our training. And I talked to him like a month or two later, and Nathan, he talked to me like this the whole time. He had his camera too low, so it was looking up his nose, and he clearly had a second monitor, and he just angled himself so he could look at me and talk to my video. And I got to see the side of his head and up his side of his nose the whole time. And he's running an international division for like a company that has 300,000 employees. This guy is operating at the highest levels, and that's his setup. And I'm like, okay.
That whole online presence thing for the next, I don't know, a couple of years, people are finally going to get their heads around the fact that they need to make sure it's a decent setup. Yeah. Yep. And looking in the camera, that would be free. If that's the only thing he did differently, to just look in the camera, his authority
on an unconscious, subconscious level for other people would just go through the roof from this, looking at the other screen, right inside of his face. And if he's doing that with me, he's doing that with everybody,
It's not out of fear or nervousness, probably. He's just looking in the wrong place.
Yeah. No, and it's just out of not being clear about, like, like I say, it's not logical, it's biological. There's more going on than just dumping your logical points over there.
I've had some people
have an impact.
Say again?
If you really want to have an impact. Sorry.
Yeah. I've even had some people say, I'm too nervous. I'm so nervous about this presentation. Okay. Print off a picture of John, cut a hole in his eye, and stick it right over the camera.
Yeah. Yep. It's good advice, right? Whatever you need to do to be able to look at that camera, like in Hollywood, they say, make love to the camera, and
that's right.
It's true. Right. You just got to look at that cold black eye like it's a bunch of people you love and want to make a difference for. And it just takes practice.
So is there any other mistakes that you see people? Oh, we covered the biggest mistake in virtual and live. So we're good there.
And live. Yeah. So, I think you're right. Looking at the camera is the biggest deal. And I think the thing that people don't know, I think everybody thinks they want a better webcam, but I think the first dollar that they should put in is for a better microphone.
Definitely. No question about it. And do you know the trick? For about $5 or $7 US, you can go to the iPhone store or the Android store and download an application that turns your smartphone into a webcam.
Oh, interesting.
So it's the cheapest. Well, there's 4 or 5 of them out there.
Okay. Just iPhone webcam.
Yeah. Just go to the iOS store and put in webcam app. And there's a bunch of them. All they really do is turn your very expensive smartphone into a webcam and microphone.
Yeah.
So most of you have a 1080p or 4K camera in your smartphone. So you can take one older version that's sitting in a drawer and pop that out and stick that in front of you. Then you don't have to spend money on a webcam because you don't need it. You won't get a webcam that comes even close to smartphones unless you got to spend about $150 to $200. Logitech Brio and those, the Elgato.
I'm on a Brio right now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know about that. Yeah. I have a hard time getting it to 4K, but it's good quality. But
well, John, that's 50 megabytes a second. Do you really want to record that much?
It is a lot of storage, man.
Yes, he wants it.
Yes.
Yeah. Zoom only goes to 1080p, so you wouldn't be able to push that much high def out anyway.
Yeah. So what's another insight around all of this stuff for somebody who is maybe virtually pitching or virtually presenting? What just go off the beaten path somewhere, and what's another thing that you've been noticing?
I've been noticing that people's eyes are showing that they're reading. And I'm not a big fan of reading scripts. I would much rather you either learn it to the point where you can perform it as if it was second nature, where pausing and you know how you get people to go up on a TED stage. Many of them are quite well rehearsed and scripted, but they don't sound that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I see people using a script, and I kind of coach them that if they're going to use a script, they should use a teleprompter.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the online world, nobody can see you using a teleprompter.
Right. And that can be a good way to lock your eyes onto that lens.
It's the only way, frankly.
Yeah.
Unless the lens is in the middle of your screen, and even if it is, when you can, they make baby teleprompters in case anybody wants one. For about $50 to $60. They make these baby little teleprompters. You stick it in front of your webcam or in front of your digital SLR like I'm using. And you take your smartphone, you put your script on your smartphone, you stick that underneath, and then the words are reflecting in that mirror. You just look into the throat of the camera and choose your speed and the size of the font and how many words, and you just Some of them will keep your pace. Others will keep a steady pace.
Uh-huh.
So you can really, I've seen people present a script that's just been written 2 days before, but because they rehearsed it 20, 30 times and they know the words, they can use the teleprompter.
Boom, there it is.
I use the teleprompter quite often when I have a 1, 2, or a 3-minute video that I'm creating for a client that wants to send them out to, draw attention. I always script it, and then I perform it in front of the teleprompter, and I get it in 2 takes max.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
extemporaneous is fun, but it's I want to do it again. I want to do it again. I want to do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it does lead to the take 35 syndrome.
Right.
So now what do you say though? Because one of the problems I have with scripts, Nathan, is I tell people the last time a well-written talk worked was the Gettysburg Address. Right? If you're talking like you write, well, it may be very clever writing, but it doesn't sound like you're talking. How do you help people get over that?
Well, 2 ways. One is if they must have a script, I tell them don't write a script. Speak your script.
Oh, that's good. And we have lots of great transcription, super easy. Yeah.
Google Docs. Word, PowerPoint notes. They all let you dictate your notes. And so I would have somebody just take your ghost deck or your deck and just stand up and just say whatever comes to mind and just say it as if you were saying it. And don't worry about writing it because we do this. We grammar check things.
Yeah.
We say therefore and hitherto, which we never use in normal conversation.
Totally.
And so that's the first thing is I get people to speak the script out.
It's a great idea, Nathan. Thanks for sharing that. That is a great idea.
And the other is I try to get people to have, I pretty much deal with the clock. So I don't help people with anything more than about an 18-minute talk. So usually it's more like 5, 6, 10-minute type presentations.
Those much more difficult, much shorter speeches.
That's right.
45-minute speech, you really need help with that. But 18-minute speech, that's right. Is something
normally
else.
you need at least a plan to go through those minutes. Or the time runs out. He just runs away if we try to be too extemporaneous.
Yeah.
And so I do get people to either mind map what they want to say to start with, then turn that. If that's not giving them the timing, then I'll have them turn that into an outline with 1 or 2 words to follow. Yeah. And then by the time they get to the actual thing the outline or the mind map work great.
Yeah.
So I've used to use the mind map in live presentations all the time in my career. I'd write down the things I want to do in a demo and I put the mind map right on the table.
Yeah.
And some people would even come up and say, what is that? And I say, oh, that was my plan for the demo.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, the only problem really with any of that is either I think if it were well written, but it didn't sound like people spoke, that throws people off. And the other thing about having any kind of notes, the only real problem with any kind of notes is that people disappear into them and aren't present with the audience. If you can have like a mind map has kind of the layout and glance down at that, one of the things that I didn't realize is how much information I could take with a really fast glance. I don't have to look at it for a long time. I know what it says already. I glance down and bingo, I got it again,
That's right. Because you wrote the mind map. Nobody did it for you. So as soon as you see something you wrote, it'll trigger just like stories. As soon as you remember 1 or 2 words or the purpose or the date, all of a sudden the whole thing comes back to you.
Nathan, I totally zoned telling people, we'll put it in the notes, but you're nathangold.com. And on LinkedIn, you're linkedin.com/in/Nathan Gold. We will make sure we have that in the show notes. That will not, but I usually like to say that up front because I want people to be able to go find you, but I guess they probably could Google you and find you pretty easily.
Yeah. I've been around the internet since 1995. So
yeah, crazy. So
my SEO is working in my favor finally.
There you go. Yeah. I just brought back johnbates.com.
Oh, you did?
It has been offline forever, which was just the dumbest thing, but we brought it back. I don't know if it's good for me to have 2 brands or not, but I think it was dumb to not have johnbates.com live.
Well,
And
when you first started, John, not to flip the conversation around, you had a terrible imposter syndrome too. Why would you want to put johnbates.com out there when you're a nobody? Just like me.
right. Well,
We were nobodies. You have your
right.
name as a website, that probably really that cost a lot of money back then, didn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, websites still aren't super cheap, although you are really good at your website. You've got a good plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
I'm glad you
exactly.
brought it back. Glad you brought it back.
Yeah. I do have to sort of laugh at my own name, right? Executive speaking success. I was definitely, aspiring
Mm-hmm.
at that time. So, so is there somebody in your life, Nathan, that is there any great leader that you have experienced that maybe you got a quote from or a story about or that influenced your life?
Well, your audience is probably not going to believe it, but since I met you and heard you say, even though you told me that it's not your own, you got it from somewhere else, but the one thing that I have probably used more often than any quote is the one where you make the audience the hero in your talk, not you.
Yeah.
And so when I say that to people, which comes directly out of your mouth.
Well, and I'll just, since we're uncovering our sources here, that's it. I got that from Nancy Duarte. Now I don't know who she got it from. Right. And
once again,
goes.
We're quoting the experts and we're getting people to see things in a new light, whether it's me or Nancy Duarte. Nancy Duarte is only going to be seen by a certain group of people. She's at a much different level. She's got different books, a different audience. You and I, we have our own audiences. And that's the message to your solopreneurs who are deciding, should I be in this business when there's a Nancy Duarte out there? Which, in case you haven't heard of her, she did Al Gore's PowerPoint presentation, got real famous. And now she's got
a great visual communicator.
Massive. Very huge success.
And a huge successful company that I'm definitely a little envious of. I don't know if I'd want to run it, but I sort of would love to just have it.
But imagine going up against her.
Yeah, no.
I did, by the way. Short story. I was at Kaiser Permanente. I won't give away all the details, but one of the guys at Kaiser Permanente that I was doing business with said, we have Nancy Duarte in here and she does what you do. And I said, really? Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about her workshop? Yeah, it's a 2-day workshop. She allows blah, blah, blah and charges what?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I thought, okay. I went home and restructured my business. I wasn't even like 1/10 of what she was charging.
Right.
When I heard that, I increased my fees and nobody said no. Nobody said no. So I knew I was undercharging.
Yeah. Yep.
So thank you, Nancy.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, that's a good one.
But really, that is the quote, John. And it comes up so often because when I coach these speaker lineups for a conference, and I get 15, 20 people coming in and they're all about I, me, my, I. I say, maybe sometime through this, you could flip it around and make the audience the hero in your talk, not you all the time. Yeah. So I weave it into the way I say things to people and they go, oh, that's a good idea. I could do that.
I will say that definitely gets the double take almost every time, right? Don't be the hero of your own talk.
That is the one. That's the one. There's others, but I'd say that's the one. The other one that I also like is from Bernard Assumption. He says, practice like you've never won. Practice like you've never won. Perform like you've never lost.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Practice like you've never won.
Or maybe I have it backwards. Is it practice like you've never won? Not practice. I'd have to double check.
I think that sounds right. Like practice like you're an underdog and perform like you're the best in the entire world. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Bernard Assumption.
That's a great quote. Well, so that kind of wraps us up here. I think that's a great one to go out on. Is there anything that I didn't ask you or that I should have asked you or that you just like to say before we go, Nathan?
Sure. When it comes to being happy, fulfilled in life, I can tell you after 13 years of running my own business as a solopreneur, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing to wake up every morning, look in the mirror, and know I'm in control of every part of every decision I make that day. Nobody can tell me what to do, where to go, how to charge, what to do. And yes, it's scary as hell.
Yeah.
But if you take the first step, go easy on yourself. Don't expect overnight success.
Yeah.
Every no is one step closer to yes. That comes from a good friend of mine down in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Just try. If you're sitting around trying to figure out what your next career move is going to be and you want to go back into corporate, great. But in the meantime, Eventbrite's free. You can set up a workshop and try out some material on some people and have a few people show up. So take that first step and maybe the next one and the next one. And who knows, maybe you'll find that being a solopreneur that provides the value that you can provide to people, again, the easier the better, the easier, the more you can provide.
Yeah.
Just take one step, go for it. It can work.
Yeah. And I want to just echo what you've said multiple times in this conversation, provide value, right? Like when I was focused on making money as an entrepreneur, all I really had was debt. When I shifted my focus just a little bit, right? Like you still got to make money, right? The funny thing about sustainability is you have to sustain it. That's profitability. That's good. We want that, right? But I shifted my focus just a little bit to providing that value that I saw people were getting from me. And that became my focus. And it didn't happen fast. The first year I went further in debt. The next year I kind of broke even. The third year though, I made more than I ever made in my whole entire life by quite a bit. And it's because I was providing value. And I'd heard that a million times, Nathan, but I never really got it till then. Right. So what if you're a solopreneur or you're thinking about it, or you're trying to decide, are you going to go back to corporate life or not? I think Nathan's making a really good argument for what is that thing you have that provides value to people, and what would it hurt you to set up a workshop? What if 3 people came? I mean, do it anyway. Learn what you see if their faces light up, right?
Right. And remember, if you don't want to be a solopreneur after trying out a few things, you can still provide value as an employee.
Yeah.
The more value you provide, the more money you'll make, the more recognition you'll get, the more promotions you'll get. I mean, it's just provide value in every possible way you can, even if it's not necessarily what they pay you to do.
Yeah. Well, and that comes back to that other word that you said that I love, which is fulfilling. And that's one of the things that I love about you, Nathan, is you live a fulfilling life because you do something you love and you make a difference for people. You provide value ongoingly. And I know personally how generously you provide that value. And, on those days when I look around and feel like, oh, maybe I'm not making enough, maybe I don't have enough, or like those moments when I feel like maybe something's wrong. I remind myself of how fulfilling it all is and what I do have and the friends I have like you. And I look at your life and how fulfilled you are. And that's what really matters to me. I don't think it's success if it's not fulfilling.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us and share your nuggets of wisdom. I think this has been a masterclass in making things work in the virtual environment. And I really appreciate you being willing to do that for me and all of our listeners. And to those of you that are listening, I hope you've gotten value out of this. I know I have. And I just want you to know that I appreciate very much your time and your attention. And thank you for joining us on SpeakLikeALeader.show. This is John Bates and Nathan Gold signing out till next time. Thank you for joining the Speak Like a Leader podcast. Go be awesome.